Hello everyone, and welcome back to the battlefield of Rome 2. HeirofCarthage here, and yes, we're going to have Syracuse matching up against Pergamon, so this should be a good one. Neither one of these factions is sitting atop a tier, unless that tier is like the trash tier. I say that, Syracuse, they're not amazing, but they're probably in a better shape than Pergamon in terms of just being well-rounded. But Pergamon does have its capabilities, and when used properly, they can be dangerous against the right foes. Now, let's take a look at what Syracuse has brought to the battlefield. I see a Skirmisher Cav and a Tarentine Cav, one on either flank. We're going to see a main line of Slingers. These are just standard Greek Slingers. We're going to have some Mercenary Italian Cav, Hippeus Lancer, and Tarentine Cav, so that's a total of 2 Tarentines. Then we've got 2 medium melee Cavs and a heavy Lancer, and then the general is in a picked hoplite unit. The picked hoplite will be quite tough. It's not going to be the kind of unit that's going to want to get in a fight against, like crazy capable sword units, but up against Pergamon, it should do quite well. The rest of the infantry, I can see Thorax swords mixed with mercenary Samite warriors, so we have a pretty good, sturdy sword line here, again, especially considering that Pergamon is on the other side because they don't have anything better to offer. We do have a Hippeus Lancer on each flank for Pergamon. The other option is the Pergamene Noble, but I do believe the Hippeus Lancer comes in just a bit cheaper. And then as far as swords go, we're going to have Galatian swords all up the line here, and it's going to be 8 of those in total. And then behind them, we have Agema spears, including the general, and some Levy pikes. So a very straightforward, not very complicated Pergamene army. They will have a numbers advantage over the infantry of Syracuse, but Syracuse is going to have a serious quality advantage. And we'll see what happens cavalry-wise. The cavalry for Pergamon is nicely supported, as they have these Tarentine cavalry on each flank with the Hippeus Lancers, so there is good support there. And like I said, it's going to go 2-to-1 in a lot of spots. We're going to have to see whether Syracuse can handle 2-to-1 fights. You can see here that the Agema spears are going to move up and make trouble here too. So this is basically kind of an all-out numbers blitz for Pergamon, and they're going to have to make it work. And we'll see whether it does. You can see the Syracusan cavalry potentially moving to this flank. Pergamon a little far out here because they would probably want to keep their distance from those slingers. Over here, the Hippeus Lancer crushed in, got some initial hits, and now it's going to move out. And it looks like those slingers are picking at the flanks of the Galatian swords. And one of the huge weaknesses of Galatian swords is their complete inability to basically kind of hold together their leadership. Now look at this, the 2 Levy pikes though come together on that Thorax sword. Pergamon's trying to make a hole in the lines, I believe. It's not working so far though. The Galatian swords are going 2-to-1 against this infantry in some instances, and it's still not going great for Pergamon. Galatian swords are okay on kind of a first charge type of thing, but they really just can't hold up in these armored fights. And we're going to see the Agema Skiers get back here and dump all their javelins. This is probably good. No doubt this is going to be causing some friendly fire, though, despite the fact that it will get some kills on the enemies, so we'll see. But anyway, yeah, those Levy pikemen do get in. They kind of get into a phalanx over here. You can see that Levy pikeman's wavering because of the fact that it ended up in that awkward position. Pikes are just difficult to use. The Hippeus Lancer over here getting countered by another Hippeus Lancer. And it's just a tough situation here. It's going to be a pretty close fight between those two. But the Pergamenes don't need close right now. They need decisive, and I just don't see anything decisive for them yet. These Agema Spears are going to hold the picked hoplites, though the picked hoplites will probably make pretty short work of Agema Spears. These ones have thrown their javelins or just chose to charge in melee. Not sure which. This Levy pikeman's going to have to try and hold off that Samite warrior. Even with the surround, I'm pretty sure the picked hoplite takes this one home. The Agema Spears kind of hit like a wet noodle in melee. They just don't have a whole lot of oomph. So I think that at this point, we kind of had the numbers versus quality game here in this match, and I don't think numbers are going to work out for Pergamon based on what I'm seeing here, though, we'll find out for sure once the battle's over. But yeah, look at this, more Thorax swords getting free. This is definitely one of the struggles for Pergamon, is that, I mean, you think about it here, this is not a completely unviable strategy. There was some combined arms, huge numbers of troops to try and overwhelm an enemy. And in this case, it just doesn't work out for Pergamon. And this is against Syracuse, who's by no means some kind of sword superpower, right? They have good units in the Thorax swords and the Samnites, but they're not amazing. And so the fact that this doesn't work against Syracuse means that it certainly will not be working up against someone like the Boii, or someone like Rome, probably, right? So Rome would be even better at this kind of grindy fight that the Syracusans did here. So there's definitely issues that the Pergamines are going to run into in attempting this build. So I think it's a cool idea. Bring the Agema Spears, get some extra damage done. Nice combined arms, cavalry approach with Pergamon. I mean, that's about all you can do. Kind of hope for the best with Pergamon in that regard. But in the end, the Galatian swords just weren't up to the task. So again, you all have seen me make some videos recently on the mod, the Unconquered Sun mod that they've been using for the, what do you call it, the Subcommanders replays. That's one of the things I like about the Subcommanders mod, is it starts to kind of make these factions built out a little, makes them unique, and, you know, takes some of their units and kind of puts them in a better place. So again, this is something that I mentioned on the other video, and I'm not going to go into great detail here. If you want to go watch, I can't remember which video it was. It was one of the recent 4v4s that I did. On that one, I discussed my thoughts that, like, for instance, the CA spending all of its time coming up with what I thought was kind of a half-baked political system, which, again, I appreciate them putting the time into it. I'm not bashing them for it, but that's what the community cried out for. Give us a family tree, give us a political system. What we really needed was balance and finished factions. So, and it comes to show here, in my opinion, in the sense that Pergamon, you know, I think did a really admirable job here in trying to pull this one out, but it just, they're outgunned. They are an uphill battle, and kudos to the player for taking Pergamon and going for it. And I like Syracuse on the other side of it, because again, Syracuse is not some like overpoweredly strong faction, so I think that it puts this on a more interesting playing field. But well played by both players here, and good job to Ram here pulling out a solid victory with Syracuse, and I appreciate him sending this replay over. And then Shovel Knight, appreciate the performance there as Pergamon. It's tough. Like I said, it's kind of an uphill battle. We've seen Pergamon win here and there, but it is tricky, and it kind of takes the right set of circumstances for it to be pulled off. Interesting thing, when I first saw all these Galatian swords, it's like, you know what, they might be able to get a couple of breakthroughs where they go 2-on-1. They just didn't. I mean, they just didn't. Look at all the heavy infantry here for Syracuse. All of these guys did just fine. And I'm not sure exactly which ones got 2v1'd, but it doesn't matter. They did just fine there. And so I think it just goes to show you that, I mean, even money for money there, I think it's 380-ish for a Galatian sword. And I think it's in the 700 range for the Thorax swords, somewhere similar for the Mercenary Samnites. It's not worth it, right? So 2-on-1, they still can't do it. And so again, that kind of just shows you the balance gaps in a way that are kind of left in the game. And again, I sometimes love seeing that Unconquered Sun mod, because it starts to address some of that, right? It doesn't address everything, but it starts to address some of that. And it just makes me wonder, what could we have gotten? And again, not complaining, because what we got in the end of Rome 2 really was quite great, considering what it launched as. So I'm not bashing CA, and I'm not bashing everybody else, but it does make me wonder, what could we have gotten if the focus had not been on a family tree, and it had been more so on, hey, CA, please balance factions and fill out factions like Pergamon, you know, general abilities, stuff like that. I feel like we could have gotten something a whole lot more exciting than just a family tree. But, I mean, again, I'd like to have both. But I'm just saying, just putting that thought out there. You'll tell me what you think. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. I'll see you next time with some more action in Total War Rome 2.